Hello and good morning. Let's take a look here. We're going to go into 4.4 in a minute. Just a couple of things. First of all, on the back side should be today's bell work. Make sure you have a heading up here. Also, if you turn in bell work before week 9, you will lose points. Okay? I'm going to say that again. I do not want bell work before week 9. Only the homework slash classwork. All right, what does PD mean? It means property damage. Okay? And what does this coverage mean? Well, this is bodily injury. They'll pay up to $50,000 per person with a max of $100,000. And what is this one? This one is actually property damage. $50,000 property damage. All right, let's turn our attention now. Open up your book to page 233. We're going to be doing some probability here. Okay, so you have a bucket. In the bucket, you have 7 red marbles, 6 green, 3 orange, and 4 black. Find the probability of a red. Well, that would be how many red marbles you have divided by the total. And that's going to give you probability. So you have 7. Then you got to add all of this up. So 6 and 4 makes 10. And 3 and 7 makes another 10. So the total is 20. So the probability of a red one is 7 divided by 20. It's 35% chance. Okay? 0.35 or 35% chance. The probability of not red would be the opposite, subtracting from 100. So minus 100, and it's a 99. That shouldn't be right. So it's 100 minus 35 is 65% not to be a red one. Okay? All right, but the question was red, and this is the answer. And I just gave you this as extra. Okay, what is a statistician? What are they called? Actuary. They predict how often someone will submit claims. Because when they submit a claim, that means the insurance company is going to probably have to pay out. So if they can limit the amount of claims, then of course they're going to make more money. Let's go to example 2. The probability of an SUV. Well, to do that one, let's take a look in the book. So we are now on page 233. So here we go. And rather than writing this chart out, you can just look at it in the book. Okay? So the question here is, what is the probability that they drive an SUV? Right here. So the probability of an SUV. Well, let's take a look here. Here are the SUVs. And the total is 91. So you're going to take the total divided by the total number of cars in this survey. So it's going to be equal to 91 divided by 246. So you get your calculator. Let's try it. 91 divided by 246. When I do that, I get 36.9. We'll just say 37% chance. Okay, 37 out of 100 is the chance. Let's turn our attention now to example 3. All right, so this one wants to know, they want to cut out the motorcycles at night. Okay, so the night shift motorcycles is 5. Okay, and the total for the night shift, so you got to be careful on this one. You see, here's the motorcycles, here's the night shift. So you have 5 out of a total for the night shift. So it's 5 divided by 59, not 246. Okay, so be careful with that. It's not the total of the whole sample, it's only a total of those in the night shift. So 5 of them drive a motorcycle out of the night shift, which is 59. So be careful with that. This one right here, example 4, Okay, turn and look at that one. This guy is a statistician and he wants to know if people who drive sports cars are more likely to have accidents. Okay, so let's take a look here. So the probability that a sports car right here is going to have an accident is 50. And the total, that's your accidents, the total of sports car is 105. So the probability is 50 divided by 105. So that's 48%. Now, the number of cars in an accident, okay, so if you look up here, had an accident, the total number of cars is 150. Out of the total number of, in the sample, is 315. And notice that these percentages are the same. So there's an equally likely chance, it's not a greater chance if you have a sports car that you're going to have an accident, is what this is saying. And these are called independent events. Okay, when they're equal, they're called independent events. Write that down. When the probabilities are not equal, they're called associated events. So independent means one doesn't relate to the other. And this other word here, associated events, means they have some influence on each other. I want you to read example 5, the Venn diagram. Okay, so read that, study it, and then start on numbers 1 through 6. So today your assignment is page 239, 1 through 6. All right, that should take care of that. Let's turn our attention now to my next class. Now, if you're not in 7th period, then you can just turn the video off at this point. But in this particular case, we want to know, 7th period, if you turn in bell work early, you will lose points. So when I check homework this Thursday, or rather next Thursday, if I see bell work, you will lose points, okay? And on the back side, well, you want to have week 1-2, and on the back side, you want to have the date. So today is 10/20/22, and we're going to complete the square on this one right here. So to complete the square, what you're going to do is move your x's to this side, like that. Then you have to divide everything by 3 on this one. Okay? Once you do that, you have to take half of this middle term squared. Well, half of 8 over 3, 2 goes in 8 4 times, so that's going to be 4 over 3, and then you got to square it, which gives you 16 over 9. So what you want to do is add 16 over 9 to both sides. Let me make this a little smaller. Okay, so what you're going to have now is x squared minus 8 over 3x, and then plus 16 over 9 is equal to a negative 4 over 3 plus 16 over 9. Once you get to this point, this should be a perfect square trinomial. Okay? And it's going to be what's inside the parentheses here. So it's going to be x minus 4 over 3 quantity squared. Then here you're going to multiply by 3 to get the same denominator. So that's a negative 12 over 9 plus 16 over 9. 16 minus that is 4 over 9. And there it is. And so now you're going to do the square root of both sides and then move the 4/3 over. So x is going to be 4 over 3. It's going to be a positive when you move it over. And then plus or minus the square root of 4 over 9. Well, the square root of 4 over 9 is 2 over 3, which is 0.6 repeating, and then you work it out. Today we're going to turn our attention to the quadratic formula. So let's take a look at this one. On a new sheet of paper, copy this one down again. Okay? Now here's the quadratic equation. X equals negative b. Square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. You must memorize that formula. Let's get this equal to 0. So we want to move this one and move this one over here. So what's going to happen is those are going to change. So we want to put the x in front and then the +4 right there. Okay, make sure you change your signs. So this is your A, your B, and your C. Once you do that, you got to plug it in. So you're going to get x equals negative b, and b is already a negative, so that'll be a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. Now you got to work that out. Now, this right here, let me point this out to you. What's inside here is called the discriminant. Write that down. Discriminant. Okay? So the discriminant determines how many solutions you have. For example, if the discriminant is positive, you're going to have 2 solutions. If it's equal to 0, you're going to have 1 solution. And if the discriminant is a negative, then you're going to have no solution. Now what does that mean? That means 2 solutions would look like this, where it hits the x-axis at 2 spots. 1 solution would mean the vertex would be on the x-axis, only 1 solution. 2, 1, and then no solution would mean it doesn't hit the x-axis at all. There it is, and that's what the discriminant is. So let's work this, and then I'll get you started on your work. So here we go. A double negative makes a positive. 8 times 8 is 64, and that's going to be a positive. This right here is going to be a negative. So 4 times 4 is 16 times 3. I think that's 48. So 16 times 3 is 48. So that's going to be a negative, because there's 1 negative here. If there was 2 negatives back here, it would be a plus. So minus 48, all divided by 6. Let's look at the discriminant. It's positive, so you're going to have 2 solutions. So you're going to get 8 plus or minus 64, and we're going to make it out of positive 16 divided by 6. Well, 16 divided by 6 is going to be 4. So it's going to be 8 plus or minus 4 over 6, which reduces to 2/3, which is what we had earlier. So it's going to be 8 plus or minus 2/3. And how do you work that? Well, one's going to be a plus, and one's going to be a minus. And you use your calculator on that. You might say, well, what do you mean? Well, okay, let's do it. Let's take 2 divided by 3, and then plus 8. So that's 8.6 repeated for that one. And this is the same thing we had when we did the completing the square. Quadratic formula is always going to work. Completing the square is a little bit of a bear. But in any event, your homework for this class is right here. If you get stuck, ask for help, and good luck. Have a good morning.